Good afternoon. We'd like to welcome everyone to this University Forum with President Erickson on this beautiful spring day. What better thing would we have to do than a forum? I'm Derek Hall, Chief Marketing Officer, and I'll be hosting the forum. I'd like to welcome students, faculty, staff who've joined us today. And by chance, if we have any Board of Trustee members out there, I'd like to thank them for joining us also. At the end of President Erickson's presentation, we'll have a question and answer session. Please use the Q&A button that's at the bottom of your screen when we get to that point. If you have questions during the presentation, feel free to get those in and we'll address those at the end. So with that, welcome. I'll turn it over to President Erickson.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it. You know, we did this near the beginning of the winter semester and thought this was a good time to once again touch base with everybody. Like Derek, I certainly appreciate all the faculty, staff, and students that are on, board members, former trustees, any number of folks that have decided to join us. So I certainly appreciate it, and I really do look forward to the questions that you can throw our way. Couple of things, you know, it seems like any meeting I go to or have anymore always begins with a COVID update. So let me give you a little bit of a COVID update. You know, as you know, we've seen an uptick, a little bit of an uptick in the Upper Peninsula, certainly more of an uptick downstate. On campus, we have been still doing pretty well, even though we've gone up a little bit. Our numbers are still less than 0.5% active positives. And so really do appreciate all the work that so many people continue to do, you know, doing all the things that we've heard so many times, wearing masks, social distancing, you know, washing hands, all of those kinds of things. And, you know, we only have less than 3 weeks left in this semester. And, you know, we're really hoping you know, everybody hangs in there to get that race to the end. Actually, we have 7 days plus a finals weekend there. So I know it's a stressful time for everybody, but hang in there. We'll make it to the end and celebrate the fact that what I believe that we've done COVID right here at Northern. And then again, that's just really a tribute to our faculty, staff, and most certainly our students. Couple of specific updates. As you've seen, we've been on a bit of a roller coaster with vaccines this week. We were very excited at the end of last week to find out we'd get vaccines specifically for our students, started getting them all scheduled in. And then of course, I'm sure you've all seen what the pause that was put in place with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The good news is we had about 500 students signed up. All those students are working with our great partners at the Marquette County Health Department. We have the ability to jump people over to them to get the Moderna vaccine. And about half the students so far have signed up to do that. I'm certainly hoping the remainder of the students that initially signed up, and of course, anybody else can sign up through the health department. It's you know, it's pretty much everybody's welcome at this point. So get signed up. It really makes a big difference, and certainly makes a big difference as we are looking forward to the fall. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. I did get a couple questions from students. How long will we be pausing the Johnson & Johnson vaccine? Because for a lot, the idea that it's a one and done shot, particularly for college students, makes an awful lot of sense. And a lot of folks put a lot of work into really helping the state understand that. The work Deanna Hemla did, working with the governor's office and so forth, to get those vaccines. But we don't know when and if that will be available. I've heard several different projections from this. It could be tomorrow, it could be 3 weeks from tomorrow, I mean, before they come back. We just don't know. But as we have always done, we will continue to follow the CDC and the state guidelines. That's been the driving force behind what it is that we've done, and I think it's served us all pretty well throughout this. One of the things I also get asked, because we sent out a survey to begin to get a sense of what percentage of our faculty, staff, and students were planning, either have vaccinations or planning. The preliminary numbers coming in are about 80%, just shy of 80% are looking at either having been vaccinated, started being vaccinated, in other words, got their first shot, or are planning on being vaccinated. And so 80% is a pretty good number. Of course, we'd like that to be 100%. One of the questions that's come along with that, though, is given the travel guidelines out of the CDC, what happens in terms of our ability to do university travel? And the executive committee is meeting on, our executive council is meeting on Monday about how we can lift those travel restrictions for employees that are fully vaccinated, now that that opportunity is available. So kind of watch for those announcements so that people can begin the important travel that so many of our university community engaged with. And so I think that's a good thing. And of course, that's a really great reason why you should get vaccinated, because that's the requirement for travel out of the CDC right now. So getting vaccinated is really an important thing. A couple of other updates. We just saw that MIOSHA did a work extension for 6 months. The governor's latest recommendation included things like K-12 schools should consider, and youth sports should be considered being paused, as well as residents not to do indoor dining. On that front, we'll watch carefully the MIOSHA requirements and so forth. Our hope, of course, is that with the majority of folks getting vaccinated, that they'll lift that restriction. We can have more people directly here on campus, which we think is an important part of it. We did make a couple of quick changes given those recommendations out of the governor's office and out of the Michigan Health Department to we continue to offer service for our students in the Northern Lights Dining and Wildcat Den, but we also moved Tamaki Tea and Smoothie King. We stopped indoor dining there because that tends to serve a broader audience. We've gone right back to the pickup window, and as an avid user of that pickup window for the last several months, they do a terrific job with that. So, we'll do that for 2 weeks and follow those guidelines, reassess, and see if we can get that back open with that. So, and then on that extension, we'll just watch and see. Again, we're very hopeful that will be lifted. Our goal has been to reopen our campus by June 15th, and then of course being fully reopened by August 1st for the start of the fall semester. These are still very much target dates. All the planning, all the work is going around that. But as we've learned to do over the last 14, 15 months, flexibility is the word. Things change can change on a weekly and daily basis. And we've demonstrated as a campus that we can adapt and adapt quickly for that. So looking forward to having even more life coming back to campus. By the way, we've had a lot of groups come to campus because they've submitted safety plans. And Mike Bath and his team have been reviewing safety plans, which has been terrific. And I have to tell you, I'm really impressed at the quality of the safety plans that people are putting forward to be able to re-engage with more on-campus kinds of activities. One of the things we'll be doing is asking every academic and service department head to create a plan for the summer and to be able to share it with their employees about how they're going to be able to keep an office open and providing service, yet providing the right balance of who's all in the office, who needs to be there, how they're going to rotate all of those things. There's not a one size fits all model. What's involved is for each department and each area really develop their plans that enable us to continue to fully serve our students in our community and to be open, but at the same time fulfilling the recommendations that have come out of MIOSHA and other places. So COVID, of course, is not the only thing we're up to these days. Even though some days it feels like it. I've said on many occasions that so many folks here, we have two jobs. We have our COVID job, which is a full-time job, and then we have our regular job, which is a full-time job. And I tell you, it happens all across campus that way. Some non-COVID items, of course, financial matters. This is budget season, but we have no new news from Lansing since the last time we spoke, which was beginning of the semester. The legislature has just returned from its spring break, and the House and Senate Higher Education Appropriation Subcommittees are working on their prospective budgets. So we're going to wait and see what those look like. And then, of course, there's the reconciliation process that they go through to end up with a budget. We always want our budgets early so our board of trustees can be in the best position possible to make decisions about tuition and other expenditures and do it with as much knowledge as we possibly can. But as we have done for so many times, this is just, you just kind of hang on these budget issues in a bit of limbo until that's resolved. And we know how to do that. We know how to manage that. And we'll continue to do that. One of the things we are able to get to, though, is room and board rates. And Gavin Leach and our budget director, Matt Ferrante, will be bringing room and board proposals to the Board of Trustees meeting. They'll be here on campus on April 29th through the 30th. And so we plan to have those done and approved so that families can begin to make at least that level of planning, because we're not dependent upon the state for direct funding for those. There's an indirect relationship, but not direct. And so anything we can do to help families plan, we think is an important thing. One of the things I sent out, was it last week? I don't know, things run together, but was a draft of an idea for adding a series of initiatives and making some modifications to our strategic plan. I really appreciate the feedback that we've received so far. What we're doing is collecting that feedback, and then the executive council is going to meet on Monday to take a look at that and see what changes could be made, and then put that in a final package to be able to take to the board of trustees. I have to tell you, the feedback has been predominantly terrific. But if you have issues or concerns or better ideas, please do share them. You know, we really need a vibrant plan of initiatives, because universities coming out of COVID are going to be successful when they have that eye on the future. The eye for new and innovative programs, for how we modify certain things that we're doing, where we can make some serious targeted investments. And we're clearly prepared to do that and anxious to do that and have mechanisms coming into place. So you have until Monday, the 19th coming up. And since you didn't have to do your taxes by tomorrow, you could use that time and go ahead and send us any comments that you have. You can send them to the NMU Pres, it's NMUP, all uppercase, RES, at nmu.edu. If you do us a favor and just put strategic plan in that subject line, that would just help us make sure that we get to that and that your ideas do get fully considered. So working well with that, the feedback again we've gotten has been really good. I'm excited about several of the initiatives. I'm excited about the idea of directly addressing the issues of carbon neutrality and really refocusing again on the issues of diversity and inclusion and engaging in innovative program development, a whole host of things. I think there are real opportunities. And many of those initiatives, we plan to really get started yet this summer. And we'll be asking people, you know, if we can pay them a little bit to come work in the summer a little bit on some of these initiatives. We're certainly willing and anxious and able to do that, to really get the foundation going. So when we come back in the fall, we're really moving forward on several of them. You know, let me talk just a little bit more about the carbon neutrality, because I've gotten a lot of feedback about that issue. And as you know, as many of you know, I did receive a request from our students that supported by many faculty, many groups and organizations, that the university make the statement that we'll be carbon neutral by at least 2050. And personally, I'm very supportive of that. But I don't want to make that statement unless and until we have the framework of a plan to do it. I've seen too many times on college campuses where people in my position will make a broad platitude, a promise for something that's 30 years down the line, knowing full well that they're not likely to be around. Now, you know, it'd be fun for me to be president when I'm nearly 100, but I'm thinking it's not very likely that I'll be here. And so if we're going to make the pledge, we have to make the pledge with the framework of a set of true action plans that will get us there. Does us very little good to just simply make a pledge and, you know, run around and tout how we pledge to do this without the hard work of what it is and where our commitments will be. And I see a lot of opportunities to do that. So watch Northern today for some more, and in the coming weeks, some more information on that and how we're going to be able to move those kinds of things forward. A quick note about the Provost Search Committee. You know, I announced that we'll begin a national search for our Provost in preparation for Carrie Schuling stepping down from the Provost position in January. And I've asked Dean Carol Johnson if she'll chair the committee. And we've got the list of people. We had many wonderful volunteers. Frankly, probably a few more volunteers than we could use. But we put the committee together, and I know Carol's reaching out to folks to see if they're willing to serve on the committee, and we'll get that committee going. My hope is that we can make a selection of a provost by the end of the fall semester, and with the hopes that they'll be ready to be able to start during the normal academic cycle of next July. So a year from this July, the hope is to have a new sitting provost. I will say we'll have the great advantage that Carrie is graciously agreed to stay on for a year to work on some, what I think are going to be absolutely critical special projects, and we're having that discussion now. So she'll be able to provide a great transition to whoever ends up with the new provost. And so very excited about that whole process. A couple of other things I get asked regularly: are we still on track for being, quote, normal in the fall, face-to-face? The answer is absolutely. You know, all the planning is about that, knowing full well that we can pivot, as I mentioned before. You know, we'll make our way through that. We've got commencement coming up. I'm really excited about how we're going to do virtual commencement. We have Brian Terrell Clark, who was one of the stars in Hamilton. And so he'll be with us. It'll be great. I'm very excited about that. Derek and his team, the whole commencement team have worked very hard to make commencement as memorable as we possibly can, even though we're doing it virtually. So excited about that. So I encourage you to tune in on commencement day on the 1st, and should be great fun with that. Last thing, I can't get away without a real shout out to Mike Lozier, our volleyball coach, and the entire team. They did an amazing job this year. One of the things, you know, they won the conference on a nail biter with our friends up the road to win the conference outright, and then turned around and again a rematch with our friends up the road. Wonderful volleyball, and they ended up winning the conference tournament. And the only sad thing is the NCAA halted doing an NCAA Division II volleyball tournament, which is really too bad because I think we'd have had a real run at it. So congratulations to Mike and all those just truly amazing students. I can go on, but I think I better stop and leave a little bit of time for questions. So if you have questions, kick them over and Derek will read them off.
Great. We do have some questions in. Again, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. But first, questions about enrollment. How does enrollment look for the fall?
So enrollment is, as you would imagine, is more complicated this year than last. Jerry Daniels and her team are doing an amazing job right now. Our orientations are up 24% as we speak. We're one of few in the state that is seeing that kind of an increase right now. So we're very optimistic about the work of the incoming freshman class. The caution lies with, we had a fairly significant number of students that stopped out in January and decided to take the winter semester off. And we're doing our best to try and get our hands around whether or not that group is signing back up. And so in my mind, that's part of the big unknown. This is a particularly challenging year. Listen, without COVID, it would have been a challenging year because the WICHE data, and I always forget the Western Intercollegiate something, they tell us what the high school graduation levels are. And this is a real down year for the number where we draw our students. This is a real down year for high school graduates. And so that's having an impact on us as well. So I am cautiously optimistic, but I tell you what makes a difference is everyone reaching out, connecting with those. If you know a student that's stopped out, you know, talk to them that, you know, we made it through this year. We will make it. Knock on lots of wood. You know, the next 7 days in finals, and we will have been still with so many of our courses that had some form or function of face-to-face, and look forward to being face-to-face come fall.
Great. Related to enrollment, with enrollment being, you know, a key factor in all of our strategic planning, there's a question about space issues. There are some programs, especially in the STEM areas, that are limited by space.
Yeah.
They would love to add more students, but there's no space to do that. Are you addressing that in your planning now?
We are. If you look at the, you know, our Board of Trustees adopted a new campus master plan, and an important part of that master plan was an addition onto Weston Hall and West Hall, sort of in that corner back in there, that's really dedicated in large part to lab space. And so we're working very hard on developing the funding mechanism to be able to do that. And the goal is to get that done, because we do recognize that there is a serious shortage of space, particularly in the sciences, particularly in labs, And that's why that's an important part of the campus master plan moving forward.
Great. Related to the community, there's a question about COVID's been tough on campus, but it's been really tough on the community also. Have you been discussing ideas and ways that we can really reconnect with the community and welcome them back to campus? What kind of things have been talked about there?
Yeah, just a couple of examples, and I'm always looking for ideas. If people have ideas, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've just been disconnected. It's wonderful to talk to people via Zoom and so forth, but it's not the same as having a cup of coffee with someone, sitting with a small group, engaging, and it's just not been practical to do that. We understand that. One of the things I've asked Dave Nyberg to do is to begin to look at this summer in the fall of doing a Reconnection Tour. In other words, hold a whole series of events around Marquette and around the Upper Peninsula and beyond, where we can go and then really develop, a reconnection, because it has been difficult. And, and rightfully, we understand people that say, no, don't, I'm just not in a position to want to meet face to face. And that's, that's including all of us. We've all become, Zoomaholics with that, but it doesn't replace face to face. And so very much looking forward to those, very much looking forward to being able to get out and about more. I'm looking forward to, just getting back and going to my favorite restaurants. We do, Jan and I, we do a lot of takeout, and I've already got mine lined up for this evening. It's kind of what we do and so forth. I'll look forward to that. By the way, I would do one of the things we have done is, and we just wanted to say thank you to a number of different groups. And we started with the hospital, where we sent over, I forget, it was 1,000 or 2,000 cookies. And just a thank you, to everyone. We're now doing that with schools and the sheriff's office and police departments. And, if we can find someone that we can thank and send them some of these, I'm sure you've had them, these massive low-calorie cookies. They're just fantastic. It's just those small things sometimes that help us be as connected as we can.
That's great. There was a recent article in Bridge Magazine talking about mandating vaccinations and proof of vaccinations. And with the 15 state universities, is there going to be a policy across the state, or how's that going to work out?
That's a great question, and it's a question I just don't know the answer to. One of the things that we have 15 wonderful public universities in Michigan. And as I said many, many times, each of us is different. Each of us has different geographical, cultural, whole sorts of things. And I really appreciate that we don't have a one size fits all for every institution. Our friends at Wayne State, closed up shop right now in terms of face-to-face classes, because that's what they needed to do. We didn't need to do that. And it's not a better or worse. It's just you adapt to the situation that you have. And so as of right now, we don't have a plan to require vaccines. However, we are reviewing, and that's, frankly, that's subject to change. We don't know. Look, if there's a mandate that comes down, we'll obviously follow the mandate. And if we think that that's in the best interest, but there are all kinds of ramifications about how you would do, mandates. How do you exclude people? How do you document? It's not for the faint of heart to be able to get to that. However, we may have to do some things like, if you want university travel money, to be able to travel, you have to be vaccinated. I mean, there may be those kinds of subsets that we explore. We haven't got to that point yet, but I can tell you we're looking very carefully at it.
Great. Looking at the last 14 months, how COVID has changed the delivery of classes and instruction. Have there been discussions about moving forward, how we might support a different model of classes and that learning?
The answer is yes, and I think it comes in a couple of different ways. I've spoke to any number of faculty who have said, one of the lessons of the last 14 months is I may actually change the way I teach my class. I've talked to a couple, three folks that have said, look, I've really come to like the idea that I can record my lecture, and instead of having that class time for a lecture, have them watch the lecture and focus class time on, in-depth discussion and activities and so forth. And I think those kinds of things are terrific. And, we have a very creative and innovative faculty. So I look for those kinds of things. I also think it's really laid forward that how do we make sure we're providing the level of support to be able to do innovative types of instruction. And so we're looking at some different kinds of models to be able to support that in as many different ways as we can. We've had two tools that not many universities, in fact, I don't think any university in this state has, and that is we provide all of our students with a laptop. All of our full-time students, they get their laptops. We don't charge extra for it. It's all part of the sort of the whole arrangement. And so everyone has a good basic ground level. And the second thing is we do a phenomenal job providing internet access. In fact, one of the things that I'm very proud of is Gavin Leach and his team, really found ways to step up in an era of COVID to get internet access out into the hands of thousands of UP families. Many wouldn't just plain not be able to have internet access. Those are two wonderful tools that I think we can continue to build on and should continue to build on.
Great. How about any updates on the Jacob Eddy renovation or possible new project?
Yes, we're moving forward. I've had more meetings on that one lately. Gavin, Kathy Richards, Jim Toms and others, we have been working on, how we're going to move forward. We're moving forward. One way or another, our goal was to have either a renovation started or a new facility started come January. And, that's the goal with this, to get going. And then, of course, there's an immense amount of planning. We've gotten great input from the faculty in the Jacob Eddy Center on those programs. I'm excited about how those programs can look and be designed and so forth. And so, we're still a couple of weeks probably away from making that final decision which way to go. And that's just dependent upon funding. We get all the funding, we'll build a new building. We don't get all the funding, we'll do a terrific job renovating the existing facility. Both are wonderful outcomes.
Great. Is there a timeline related to the business innovations building that has been talked about?
Yeah, I mean, that's right at the top of the list. I know Brad Canale's been working tirelessly with a group of donors to be able to move and get that. We're getting closer and closer with that. And so, I mean, this is for me personally, it's not that I don't like to see my friends in the College of Business here in Cohodes. I just feel bad for them that they're stuck here when they really ought to be in the middle of the academic mall. It's better for them as faculty and staff, and it's clearly better for our students to be part of that. And the renderings are just amazing. for that kind of facility. And so as soon as we put the final finishing touches on fundraising, away we go.
Great. A question about, is NMU participating in any way with the search for the new Marquette City manager?
Not formally, but like, for example, I've had a number of conversations with the search firm. And I've, of course, talked to folks in the city about, the kind of person that we'd like. And, quite frankly, we're looking for a great partner. One of the things that serves Northern and our students so well is the relationship the university has with the city. We are very much in this together. And we've had a great relationship, at least the years I've been here, and continue to look forward. We see some exciting things just on the horizon for us, being even more engaged with the city, both from a public perspective and a private perspective as well. So on the forefront of some pretty cool things happening there.
Great. Any announcements or updates related to summer classes, summer camps, events on campus coming up this summer?
Yeah, we're trying to do our best to accommodate as many summer camps as we possibly can. The critical element for those camps is providing us with a safety plan. We can make the decisions of having many of these groups on campus if they provide us with a comprehensive safety plan. And we've had a lot of groups work directly with Cindy Pavla and with Mike Bath on developing that with the standards and protocols and agreements, and all of those kinds of things. But the goal, of course, is to bring this campus to life in the summer. I'd really like to not go through another summer where it's just so insanely quiet. Summer, there needs to be a vibrancy in the summer, and camps are one great way to be able to do that.
So speaking of protocols, do we foresee doing surveillance testing in the fall when everyone returns?
Another wonderful question. I don't know the answer to that. My hope all along is our focus would be on vaccinations, not necessarily surveillance testing. But I think as we get closer into the summer, we'll start to make decisions on surveillance testing. I would have to say that the fact that we tested everybody in the fall and did it all again in the winter were extraordinarily helpful for us. They gave us baselines, they gave us a way of really looking at things. I think they were one of the tools that really helped us all contribute to keeping our COVID rates as low as we possibly did.
Great, thank you. A question about faculty union negotiations. They're going on now. Is there anything you can share related to that?
I'm always optimistic about negotiations. We have, in my view, a strong relationship. It takes a while to get through all of the stuff that we need to get through in terms of going through negotiations. I have immense respect for the AAUP team. I think they've got an excellent team that's committed not only to the faculty, but to the life of the institution. And of course, the students that we serve. So I'm looking forward to continued dialogue. There are points whenever you do these negotiations where, you gotta do the dance. And, but I think as long as we all are committed to that ideal of furthering the institution, we'll get the kind of outcome that I think we can all be proud of.
Great. Do we foresee more courses and online programs developing in the near future, mostly from what we learned related to COVID?
I think so. But I'd also say this. I think that when we've talked to students and talked to faculty, our students and our faculty want to be face to face. There's no doubt in my mind. That's very much who we are. And there's an important place for online. And I see online programs growing and developing, serving different populations that need that kind of service, but not at the expense of being face to face, not at the expense of losing the core of who we really are, because so many of our students, look, I was talking with an alum not too long ago, and I asked this alum, what was it that she remembered about Northern? And she just listed off all the people that she had met, all the social engagements, the clubs, the organizations, the life of a college student. Sadly, she didn't, list anything that I would have taught in a class, I mean, there was no one, we'll talk about an individual professor and so forth. The vibrancy of a college education is not the commodity of the class. It's the engagement, the interaction, the entirety of the experience. And we can't lose sight of that, even though there's a really important and useful place for online that we should embrace and do where it makes sense for us as a campus community.
Great. Related to study abroad, we have a lot of students that graduation requirements, have a study abroad component. Are there accommodations being made for them, and also plans to jumpstart that program once we're able to get going again?
As many know, I'm just a huge fan of study abroad. I mean, these are transformative experiences for our students and also for our faculty that lead study abroad. We should do as many study abroads as we can possibly do with that. And I'm looking forward to really jumpstarting that and getting those back when we're able. The challenge right now, it's just, I can't see that far on the horizon about when that can happen, but I can assure you that when we can, we will.
Great. There's a couple questions about, creating new academic programs, more options for students. What kind of discussions are going on in the academic area that might, what's coming up down the road? What can we anticipate?
Well, I think there are a couple of really key things. One of the things that I know Carrie's working on is really helping us develop some ways and mechanisms of promoting and encouraging either, some innovative program revisions or new programs and so forth. We're very excited about Brittany joining us and the launch of the SISU Institute. It's really all about promoting so much academic innovation. The future of this university, and frankly, I believe the future of almost every other university, is tied to our creativity of being able to create new and innovative programs. And there are a lot of opportunities. We need to make sure that we have streamlined processes, that we're willing to take risks, that we're, making some investments. And, we were very successful with the Program Investment Fund, the PIF. We have to do something like that again. Look, it's this simple. If you have a great idea for a new and innovative program, let's talk. If you need a few dollars to get it going, that's where we ought to be making some really strategic investments. We can do that. You look at some of the things that we've started up already because people said, hey, I've got this really cool idea. And, we're just seeing kind of one thing after another with that. So the more we can promote it, And we can promote it in a variety of different ways, whether it's on campus or whether it's through the global campus. I think the global campus offers us great opportunities for the development of some programs and so forth. So we need to make sure that we're willing to embrace and explore and, you know, consider new ideas, press ourselves to not be limited by a status quo, but to say, you know, what do we think that future is going to look like, and let's take the risk and do some crazy programs. You know, I mean, who would ever thought we'd start a medicinal plant chemistry program? I mean, this is the craziest idea, only outdone when Kerry walked in and said we should start a body farm. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to not call it a body farm anymore. But I mean, it's those kinds of things. And for me, that's the fun stuff to do, you know, to think of something new and innovative and different, or different populations to serve. How can we serve? You know, we're a tax-supported public institution. We have an ethical obligation to serve as many different populations as we possibly can. And so we ought to think about that. So if there are populations that we're not serving that we think we can, we should. I mean, look at the work that came out of the Bear Center and how they're serving not only the educational needs of our students, but they're serving our community in so many important ways. And lots of innovative ideas out there.
You mentioned Brittany and the SISU Center. There's a design thinking workshop tomorrow. Everyone's invited to attend. Check your emails for that. But I hear this snowstorm was sponsored because Brittany came up from Arizona to visit campus. So that's a great thing.
I knew that had to be a reason.
I
thought it was because I actually this weekend put my snowblower away.
Oh, that's it. That's automatic there. A related question is developing interdisciplinary programs. What can we do to encourage that?
I tell you, I think SISU is one of the vehicles to be able to do that. And frankly, I think interdisciplinary programs are very much the future. This idea of marrying different programs together and being able to think about how, an academic area here, an academic there can come together and create something new and exciting out of that. And you have those ideas, I'm all in. I know Carrie's all in. I know our board is all in. We want to support that level of innovation, and we clearly will.
Great. There's a question about, are there plans of relocating or doing something with the health center, making it more disability friendly? Yes.
Our goal as part of our campus master plan, and frankly, it's at or near right at the top of my list, is to build a new health center and attach it on to the side of the woods that allows us to combine physical health, mental health, and a variety of health related services. I think that's very important. I think it's high time, we all our friends in the health center are working in the first floor of an old dorm. It's like, these are wonderful, dedicated folks that are working there, and it's the kind of facility that is not conducive to providing the level of service that they want to provide. And so by doing that, by really upping our game with mental health services and doing it in a facility that students can get direct access to, very easy. You don't have to walk all the way up campus if you're living in those residence halls. You can have direct access to those services, but also make it easy for so many of us that use the health center, for our health services, a drive-up pharmacy. We ought to be able to do a drive-up pharmacy. That's not such, Walgreens does a drive-up pharmacy. We can do it better, by the way. We can do those kinds of things with that. So Interestingly enough, Gavin and I were talking about that one today about, which dollars do you think we could, get together to get a health center built? Remember, these are one-time dollars, they're single expenditure dollars. And so the idea of doing something like that, I think is really, really, really important.
So COVID was tough on delivery of education, but also very tough on research. Are there any discussions on how to jumpstart research across campus and helping our grad students and our faculty?
I haven't had those discussions, but I would like to have those discussions. And if there's a group that wants to sit down and talk through some ideas about what it is that we could do. I have to tell you, I'm really impressed with the work that Lisa Eckert is doing out of the Graduate and Research Office. We may need to make some investments to, really jumpstart research to be able to make sure we're providing the vehicles for people to go for and get external funding, which has been going better and better. But I'm sure looking forward to some ideas that people have about what it is that we can do.
So 2 more questions. One more, a little bit more on the negative side, and we'll finish one on the positive side. Worst comes to worst, if we have to pivot again in the fall, are we prepared to go all online again and serve our students?
Simple answer is yes. I'm really confident. When you look back to a year ago, more than a year ago, we pivoted and went fully remote in 2 days. It wasn't easy. It was, lots of consternation, lots of sleepless nights, a weekend of scrambling and so forth, but people did it. We know how to do it. And we'll provide the mechanisms to do it if we have to do it. So our plan all along is to plan for being face-to-face, because that's where the planning really needs to be. But knowing full well, in this time, we don't know what the future is really going to be. Although I do know this, the odds of us going remote decrease dramatically as more of us go out and get vaccinated. The more we get vaccinated, in my mind, the greater the opportunity that we'll all be back face to face, and that, we'll get to that point one day where we don't have to wear those masks. Because I can tell you, I'm sick of wearing them, and if I'm sick of wearing, I know everyone's just kind of tired of wearing the masks with it. So the answer is yes, we'll do it, but I sure hope we don't have to.
So we did the survey concerning the vaccinations this last week. Are we going to do that again? And does that 80% represent those who responded, or 80% of?
Yeah, this is just real preliminary numbers, and it is just those that have responded. And so we'll continue to do this. We may. I needed to get some sense, and this was the quickest and easiest way I could do it. We may look to do a much more scientific approach to it. I'm going to have some conversation with Jason Nichols, and so that we can really take a look and get as close an understanding as we can with that.
Okay, to end on the positive side, coming back in the fall, we've been disconnected. Are there some ideas out there, or maybe if someone has ideas, how they could share them about how we can celebrate coming back together?
Listen, I'm wide open on ideas. Personally, I'm really hoping we get the ice cream, social back. I just love the ice cream social, dishing it out. So many faculty and staff and students, faculty and staff with families and young kids, and I'm really hopeful. that we do that. You know, I do hope we get some lactose, you know, ice cream for lactose intolerant folks like me, but you know, we got to have some challenges, I guess. But any ideas that folks have about what we can do to help us re-engage? All ears on this one.
A unknown person says Pi Social. We all know who that is, really. So
I don't think that's JD out of the math department talking about pi.
right. A real quick question about that survey. Do we know how many, the percentage of the student body that responded? Was it a decent number?
Yeah, I just, hold on.
Over 2,000.
So we've had over 2,000 respondents.
Great.
But I don't have any of the data yet on sort of what that breakdown is. We'll share that obviously as we get that and have that. You know, again, it's just sort of a voluntary Qualtrics survey just to get some sense. I think we'll need a much more refined mechanism going forward. But, you know, I'm both encouraged by this, by the fact that at least folks that responded, that 80% are on the yes side. I'm worried a bit about 20% no's, and what we can do to help people, you know, cross over and get vaccinated. Not only to help them, but to help us all.
Great. Alrighty, to wrap up, a shameless plug for a few alumni events. There's some virtual events coming up, the Cohotus Professorship. Go to /alumni/events to find out about those. And then also, if you have more questions, feel free to send those to nmuprez@nmu.edu. Feel free to send your questions there. So with that, we're going to wrap up. President Erickson, I'm going to give you the last word, and then we will adjourn this forum.
Well, you know, just as I began, thank you to everybody for all the, you know, dedication and hard work and support of keeping the university education moving forward in the very best way possible. I'm proud of this university community for everything we've all done together.
Great. Everyone have a great afternoon. Appreciate you being here.